Great introduction. I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen now. Can everyone see it? All right. So as Jake mentioned, we are a group of graduate students from the Thunderbird School of Global Management, and we developed this report to serve as a resource for small businesses within the fitness industry. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. So looking at how COVID-19 affected the industry, we know its effects were obviously felt across the nation. So we have this chart and it shows the immediate impact that COVID had on gym visits in Alabama, Georgia, and Texas in March. And we have seen some recovery since then, as I'm sure you have all noticed as well. However, we still have a ways to go. So during this presentation, we will be discussing a variety of ways to mitigate the impact of COVID-19 in terms of revenue, cost, marketing, and sustainability strategies. So looking at costs, we can see that it's important to discuss how costs have shifted. So operations have shifted to increase and also decrease costs, but it's mainly due to the cleaning supplies that are required to be purchased for many of these small gyms. But one thing that's really important to note is that in terms of material costs, wipes for cleaning gym equipment are actually 10 times more costly than sprays, as wipes are 5 cents per use versus 4 cents per use case for sprays. And some businesses have also had to increase their airflow to reduce the risk of COVID contraction indoors. And this has also led to an increase in costs. But there have been some decreases, thankfully. So for example, when the states mandated shutdowns across the country, labor and utility costs decreased dramatically. And since then, during the recovery, most facilities have still been operating at a limited capacity. So this has led to sort of sustainable decreased labor and utility costs. And that has helped to obviously offset some of those increases that we have seen in terms of cleaning supplies and preparation.
The Vice President of Communications for the International Health, Racquet, and Sports Club Association, Meredith Poplar, uncovered that this industry lost an estimated $700 million per week during the height of the shutdown. The CEO of IRSA also estimated that the fitness industry lost $7 billion in sales through July 1st. Apart from gyms being required to close during the stay-at-home orders, many potential customers are still hesitant to purchase a new membership. But one promising finding by Run Repeat was that Arizona had one of the lowest cancellations or percentages of gym cancellations surveyed states, with only 14.08%. Providers that offered a tiered pricing structure saw a shift away from their premium levels towards a lower tier. And multiple gyms that have shifted towards online and outdoor classes only saw 20% of the average revenues, with a year-over-year growth rate of negative 5.86%. Limited capacity, fewer classes, and just overall consumer hesitation to return in person led to decreased revenue. Next slide, please. Back in December, we had the opportunity to talk with Elevate Yoga, and they shared that before COVID, they were experiencing rapid growth. And after the shutdowns, when Governor Ducey allowed gyms to reopen, the revenue decreased by 50%. When we spoke with them in December, we saw that, or they had said that now, although it's rebounded a little bit, they were still experiencing a 30 to 40% decrease. In their estimates, 40 to 50% of clients placed their memberships on a freeze. And although they are offering virtual class sessions, they only saw a minimal amount of their clients utilizing this resource.
So the virtual fitness industry has been evolving for the better part of the last decade. But like most emerging technologies, though, how the mainstream society would choose to engage with or how quickly they would adopt the technology was greatly misunderstood. The thought was that immersive virtual reality content would motivate customers, Life Fitness and many others attempted to gamify the workouts by translating activities like pedal speed on a stationary bike into virtual motions. They thought exercisers would want to race on horseback through the Wild West, or blow up enemy tanks on faraway battlefronts, or fly through a fantasy world as Pegasus, all while burning calories, were something that consumers were going to want to do. This was obviously not something that motivated or engaged customers at the time, and the concept just never caught on. Obviously, COVID has led more people into virtual fitness, but is virtual fitness actually here to stay? If you take a look at this chart, you'll see that people who participated in yoga or high interval training, boot camp type activities prefer to consume their workouts through a virtual setting. But other forms of exercise still prefer gyms. Social support theory suggests a sense of community, feedback, and emotional support are needed to complement virtual fitness. And these just aren't there right now. The virtual fitness industry isn't ready for mass adoption, and many consumer pain points are yet to be addressed. Just last Friday, Peloton stock dropped 7% on the news that they couldn't fulfill the orders that they had in time that they had previously stated. Things like latency issues and lack of infrastructure will delay the process of mass adoption. There currently just isn't enough large high-speed fiber optics cables to support mass adoptions. This causes buffering that frustrates many users that have that live virtual setting. But look for an infrastructure build, a signal mass adoption is coming soon. In the meantime, understand that people were forced into adopting this technology before it was ready and before it wanted the masses wanted it. But you can expect it to be the new big thing in the future, and search for opportunities to leverage a hybrid model like virtual face-to-face should be in discussions for an easy transition.
Awesome. So yeah, the first and the most important question that gym owners need to ask is it safe for people to be in the gym working out? And every study and all indications right now tell us that the answer is yes. So as you can see in the figure on the left, numerous national and global studies support the fact that there's a very low chance of contracting the virus when you're working out at properly equipped fitness centers. The most prominent of these studies, as you can see on the right, was completed by IHRSA, the International Health, Racket, and Sport Club Association. Their research was done over the course of 3 months. It consisted of over 50 million check-ins at about 3,000 gyms. And they concluded that out of the 50 million check-ins, 0.0023% of people tested positive for COVID, which is an extremely encouraging rate for both gym owners and gym goers. So by adhering to CDC guidelines and building out robust COVID-19 safety measures, gyms are one of the safest places that people can be at this time. Next slide, please. Awesome. So some of the standard best practices that we've seen across all industry at this time, and we'll just run through them super quick here, is checking employees for symptoms before shifts. This could be either a daily health check where you have them come in, as well as checking their temperature, checking their breathing, providing face masks, both the employees and customers, to ensure that everybody's following CDC policy, new hand sanitizing stations, as well as disinfecting stations, reminding employees and customers to wash hands, as well as disinfecting, and even offering weekly testing now that it's a lot more available than it was a few months ago. So next slide, please. Yeah, and a couple of the bigger steps that gym can take include investments such as in misting devices, as well as an investment in the ventilation systems of their buildings. So foggers, aka misters, they're electric handheld machines that can spray disinfectant up to 5 to 7 feet. I know a lot of gyms already utilize manual spray bottles for disinfecting purposes. Well, misting is a much more effective alternative. It's a lot more time efficient because of the spray, and cost efficient because it's ensuring more consistent and accurate flow of the disinfectant. And then electromagnetic spraying actually takes misting one step further. So on the conventional spraying methods, the electrostatic sprayers apply a positive charge to liquid disinfectants. And what this does is allows for efficient coating of hard, non-porous surfaces. And this is perfect for gym equipment such as stationary bikes, barbells, dumbbells, and benches. And while both of these products are small investment for gyms to make, it could very well prove to pay off in the long run in terms of both cost savings and marketability using these tools as a way to market to your customers that your gym is being safe. And then quite possibly the most important step that gyms can take in mitigation efforts is to improve the ventilation quality and the quantity of their facilities. So if a room in a building doesn't have the capability to filter in clean air every 15 minutes, the rates of contracting the virus increase significantly. So this might require additional HVAC units or for current HVAC units to be run more frequently. And maybe to improve the quality of the ventilation, gyms might need to implement new or higher grade filters in their HVAC units. The CDC themselves has come out and they've recommended an HVAC filter quality of at least a MERV 13 or higher, because this allows more of the virus to actually be caught in the filter. So building out an air filtration system might be, like you said, it might be an investment for some gyms going forward, but it can also be used as a tool to market to your customers and your employees to help to ease the mind of people when they enter your gym that they're able to work out safely. Next slide.
So one of the important things to keep in mind that when you're reevaluating your marketing strategy is that what worked last year most likely is not going to show the same results this year. Companies need to focus on taking more of an informative approach as opposed to a sales-focused one. Customers are asking whether it's safe to return to gyms and what measures their gym's taking to protect them. So taking people's temperature at the door and actively sanitizing the equipment will help restore some of their trust. And also there's a lot of misinformation in circulation concerning the safety and risks associated with going to gyms. So doing something as simple as forwarding research-based studies and showing data behind the risks can help set a lot of customers' minds at ease. For many customers, having contact with as few people as possible will help give a sense of protection and decreased risk. Reminding customers of the importance of social distancing when around others, and offering the chance to sign up for memberships or classes without needing to come into direct contact can help increase the number of signups. Creating a gym member portal or utilizing phone signups will put people at ease when considering going to the gym. Customers need to be reminded of the benefits of exercising regularly, and utilizing social media will help a business regularly stay in front of prospective and existing customers. Posting weekly challenges, quick workouts, or workout tips can help a fitness page be seen as an asset. Encouraging followers to post videos of their exercises or personal tips can help businesses gain exposure to new audiences as well. And also, going along with social media usage, incorporating a virtual community aspect can help increase customer loyalty. One helpful tool could be Facebook groups. Encouraging members to join a particular group can help build a sense of community between members, and also promote discussions on health-conscious lifestyle and have members interact with one another. This group can also be used as a forum for customers to ask questions and voice their concerns in a monitored environment. And one of the unfortunate realities of this pandemic has been that many gyms and studios lost a significant portion of their customer base. And although the reasons may vary, gyms can create email drip campaigns towards specific customer bases. Many customers may have canceled their memberships due to concerns surrounding the pandemic. And if this is the case, then gyms have the opportunity to create an email campaign sharing updated information on the virus and sending out bi-weekly or monthly updates that incorporates research surrounding working out in person, just to update customers and show them when it's safe to return. Next slide, please.
Awesome. So, all right. So the number one and the most controllable costs for many fitness centers are the labor expenses. And due to the fact that most gyms are being forced to operate at about 50% capacity or even less, those labor demands have decreased, leading to gyms either laying off their employees or drastically reducing their hours for their employees. So this is definitely not an ideal solution for either party. but the reduction in labor expenses is going to help offset the stark drop in revenue over the past 9 months or so now. And a couple of different avenues that gyms can take to reduce those costs. They include internships. You have college students taking classes online. They have flexible schedules and they're eager for real work experience. So it's a great opportunity for both sides to provide additional work capacity at lower costs, and then from them to learn from business owners such as yourselves. And then reducing store hours. Both large and small gyms across the country are reducing hours, not only to stop the spread of COVID-19, but to reduce their operational expenses. So it may be beneficial to assess your foot traffic, to decide what times are best to remain open, and then cut back by maybe an hour or two a day to save on payroll, electricity, and other associated costs. And on top of labor expenses, a couple other tactics that we thought about were cutting back on subscription services. A lot of times we overlook these that we might not be able to fully utilize right now. So take a look to see if you're able to downgrade to more basic memberships of something like Spotify if you have music, Cox if you have cable, and pausing the service or cutting it out completely if it's not necessary. Next, cut back on marketing. Some marketing tactics that don't provide a positive ROI that can be eliminated. The Gym Universal Athletic Club, they've been tracking different print, radio, marketing campaigns and found them to be a lot less effective. So they cut back on those. And then finding more efficient ways to conduct your marketing, like in social media, which is a free outlet that anybody can use. Getting your members involved, getting your employees involved. Social media is a huge tool right now that you should be using for your marketing, not only because of its availability, but because it's free as well. And then going forward, gyms can begin to incorporate regenerative, sustainable technologies. Clearly, in the short term, that's an added cost due to the purchase and installation of equipment. But gyms are able to save a lot of money by transitioning to renewable energy practices going forward. And then lastly, small gym owners should explore the economic relief programs provided at the local and national level. One of the biggest developments of that was the PPP loan, the Paycheck Protection Loan. So talking to a lawyer and speaking to somebody who's able to advise you going forward on how to apply for those loans is very important for all small businesses to look into going forward. Next slide, please.
So building on that, update and expand your digital content. We can't predict the next big innovation but in the fitness industry, but we can be relatively certain that it's going to be virtual. Begin developing a database of pre-recorded exercise sets and highlight things like proper form and other areas like feedback and emotional support. Other digital content may be lacking. Community is another big one. If COVID has taught us anything, I think it's that we need human connection and we need to get out of our homes. Think about keeping a full-time nutritionist on staff. Nutritional certifications through certified providers such as National Academy of Sports offer nutrition certifications between $500 and $600 that can be completed within a couple of months. COVID has brought a rise of health awareness, and that's something that can be capitalized on by upselling premium memberships that include robust virtual environments and features such as nutrition. And it can go a long way towards recovering revenue. Next slide. So leveraging virtual fitness for new revenue streams. As we talked about earlier, adding a nutritionist to your virtual or face-to-face offerings can be a low overhead new source of income. Consider partnerships, cross-merchandising, and branded meal plans with grocery stores, meal plan companies like Blue Apron, Uber Eats, Postmates. The focus of whatever action plan you take in the future should be use the insights we've learned from COVID to plan for the future, but that work today. Next slide.
All right, so now looking at sustainable strategy. So this term encompasses a business's resilience and long-term ability to generate revenue, provide employment, and benefit societies. And it really is about having a deep awareness regarding your employees, consumers, your financing, supply needs. And because of that, it gives you this awareness of your stability as a business so you can mitigate risks and hedge against future problems. So in addition, we have sustainability in terms of reducing environmental impact and also having more social responsibility. So a survey by Deloitte in April of 2020 showed that 71% of citizens view climate change as serious a problem as COVID-19. So if fitness centers can incorporate sustainable practices through energy consumption or the purchase of eco-friendly supplies and market this to consumers, it has the potential to lead to increased market share and revenue by attracting consumers that give weight to these issues. And of course, it should also be noted that using sustainability and investing in renewable energies can save businesses money long term. So for example, regarding renewable energy production, according to a proxy preview report by As You Sow, the cost of solar panels has decreased by 90% in the past decade. And so this is making it a lot easier for businesses of all types to invest in these renewable energies. For example, the fitness center Universal currently has 1,300 solar panels to power their facility, and it saves them roughly $5,000 per month in utility costs. In addition, there's some really amazing things being done using regenerative equipment at fitness centers. So things like treadmills and ellipticals that recycle a user's power to generate energy for the fitness center's power grid. And according to Green Micro Gym, this equipment can sometimes, if used efficiently, lead to an 85% reduction in energy costs. So we also have some programs listed here by Local First Arizona. So we have their Arizona Green Business Program and their Southern Arizona Green Business Alliance Program. And these give great consulting and workshop resources to small businesses that want to incorporate more sustainable strategy into their business plan. So, all right, that's it for us. Thank you all for your time, and we hope that this presentation was and will be useful. I want to say also that we have a white paper report. This was our PowerPoint presentation, but on our white paper, you will find a lot more information, a lot more details, and that will be uploaded to Local First Arizona in coming weeks. And also, please check out additional resources provided by Local First Arizona using the QR codes below. So we have the Local First Learning Lab and also other webinars such as this one. Thank you.
Simon, thank you so much. And again, thank all of you, Simon, Christopher, Blaze, Timothy. It's always nice to work with students who are in touch, and I say that because we've been conducting conversations and consults with businesses for the past year, and a lot of them have been fitness businesses. And just an example for how it kind of has connected thus far is that as they were talking about, a lot of people are viewing both COVID and COVID preparation and sustainability as marketing, rather than just having to put money into COVID or putting money into sustainability. It's part of their marketing strategy and their marketing plan. I know that another thing you talked about was reducing energy in buildings by adjusting hours. I know that there's a couple facilities in Tucson who have been monitoring their baseline for their energy usage, just running the building for a couple people so that they have a baseline to compare it to for when they have people in, and they can kind of make those decisions better by analyzing that data, which is really interesting. Sticking to the guidelines is, as they said, really important, along with that retargeting. I have a business in Scottsdale that has had the Department of Health called on them 5 or 6 times because they don't necessarily understand what Blaze introduced, which is that there is a very low transmission rate. They're just unhappy that the gym is open. And every one of those 6 times, they've been stringent in abiding to the guidelines, and they've been perfectly fine through all 6 visits. But they've really worked hard. I know that Amber and Brandy are going to be here to talk about this a little bit, but I've seen a lot of consignment agreements between gyms and promotional partners. So whether that's an item or food or anything that they sell in their gym, it kind of has offered a cross-promotional opportunity. And I've seen that at a lot of places right now where they offer deals or package deals for multiple different businesses coming together so that people see each other's businesses rather than staying just in your own shell. I know Black Rock Bouldering, which is a rock climbing gym in North Phoenix, has a ticker on their website, and it's kind of a popular thing for people who go to their gym now, because they can literally see live action how many people are in gym and kind of make decisions off of how comfortable they are going or deciding when to go. And then the last one that I was just going to talk about, which I didn't know before the presentation. I read about it, but I didn't think about it a lot. The meal planning that you talked about with combining with a gym. There is so many chefs right now looking for work. So many folks who are looking to pair with other organizations. I introduced a few to a couple farms so that they could pair up to sell like produce boxes, but they'd be very interested in working together with gyms to devise those kinds of plans. Some of them are nutritionists too. And that's something where you can reach out to Local First and have a conversation with us, and we can bridge those gaps. But without further ado, I just wanted to connect some of the research that they were doing to some real world examples in Arizona, just to tap on how in touch these students from the Thunderbird School of Management really are. And their research is just on point. But without further ado, I would like to introduce you to Amber and Brandy. They are in charge of Elevate Yoga. It is their creation. They were the first ones who came to mind for our membership team when we were trying to figure out who could talk about pivoting at this current time and provide good examples of how they've gone about it. They've gone above and beyond, and I honestly don't want to introduce them too much, because I love listening to you guys talk about your story and how it kind of started in its infancy over at Monarchid. And so I'm just going to give it to Amber and Brandy to kind of just introduce who you are, how the business is going right now, and then we'll kind of dive into some of the questions that we talked about the other day.
Awesome, thank you. So yeah, kind of the high level, I think, of who we are and how we started. We are in year 5 of business, but we actually started, this was just a passion project. We had no vision of leaving our full-time corporate jobs. We just had a passion for doing what we were doing. And we started as a pop-up, doing, I think, 2 classes a night, I think at the time when we first started over at the Monarchid. Anybody who's familiar with the downtown Phoenix area probably knows that building here on Roosevelt Row. And so we were a part of that community for, my gosh, just over a year and a half. And, you know, when it was one of those things where we realized there was a need for what we were offering in the community. And so we looked at each other and we said, well, why don't we just make this a full-time brick and mortar studio? Fast forward, we're in year 5. And of course, during year 4, you know, we had just signed a lease a year and a half before COVID hit, on, you know, had to put on our big girl pants, no longer pop up. We're responsible for a rent, and COVID hit. So it was a lot to kind of, I think, pivot. Everybody's sick of that word, but I think we're kind of excited with how we pivoted. And Jake, thank you so much for giving us this opportunity. But, you know, we were born out of, I want to say nothing. It was literally just a passion project. And then fast forward, we now have a full-time brick and mortar studio that doesn't look the way I think that we ever envisioned it because of COVID. But that's kind of how we started, was just, this is a hobby on the side. Now we're running a full-blown studio. So I don't know, Brandy, if you want to add anything to our story.
I don't think so. I think like we tell this story, I feel like very often, I feel like you've hit the nail on the head with everything. It was perfect.
Oh, Jake, I think you're on mute.
I heard you tap on community a lot, and I know that that's also something that Thunderbird School of Management heavily emphasized as well, is building that community, those virtual communities. As Chris was talking about, wanting that personal connection with someone, wanting to have a virtual community that feels more supportive. So I know that you kind of pay testament to that community that you've built to get you through COVID, but what does that community look like? How did you build that community? And how do you know your customers?
Right. I mean, honestly, and this was when you and I chatted, or all 3 of us chatted, I should say, about a week ago. You know, you said, what was the biggest thing that helped us, you know, I don't want to say survive, but get through this past year. And it had everything to do with community, and it's how we started. It has nothing to do with COVID. Those of you that know the Monarch building know, for years and years and years, that building, it was a community. There was, I think at one point, in upwards of 30 different businesses functioning out of that building. And so our roots are in community. You know the people that you're sharing the building with, you're friends with them, you support them, you collaborate with them, and that's just what we came from when we first started. And so even before going into COVID, community was huge for us. We were community first before we were a studio, and to this day, that's still when we onboard new people into the studio, it's important that they get that experience before just coming into a studio. And I know Brandy's going to talk a little bit more about, how we've built that, but I think probably that's the biggest thing that helped us, I think, survive in the early onset of all of this, is we've always had the mindset of community first before studio.
Perfect. I know, and this might be Brandy's. I know you kind of mentioned and talked about how when customers come in, you have a conversation with them so that you understand what they want, who they are, and really try to respond and morph to that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. As owners, we try to connect and be present with every person that walks in our door, just so that we show them that we are real people. We take pride in what we do and make sure that they are comfortable walking in and taking a class with us, or even just walking in and asking questions. We make sure that everybody that walks in we make sure that they feel like they're a part of something. Everybody wants to be a part of something. So we make sure that they are a part of our studio, our community, or whatever we have going on, whether it's just them coming into one-time class, maybe we have a special event, making sure that they know they are a part of that.
Yeah, which is interesting because I feel like that is what has provided structural support, right? Which is something that I've heavily heard from local farmers and farmers markets as well, that they try to encourage people to turn their shopping not into a task, but a community event. So that the socializing event, and that way it's a little bit more intrinsic to their day-to-day, and they feel more of a stake in those businesses succeeding and surviving. So we kind of got into how do you know your customers, but let's dive into this ethos that I know that you have over there, which I've summed up. You didn't necessarily sum it up, but I summed it up as no woe, which is you were kind of talking about not reflecting on what's going wrong, but more reflecting on the adaptions that you can take. So what does that know is woe, and how do you kind of continue pushing forward through all this? Because I know you just are kind of like in that maze, and every time you hit an end, you don't like sit down, you just keep looking for the next like route. So how has that kind of gone, and what does that ethos look like?
Sure. And the way you just summed it up, I think is perfect, because I think, we haven't had, this hasn't fallen short of having failures and running up against brick walls. And I feel like any business owner that's watching this now or later can understand that as soon as you make a decision, it might be changing 5 minutes later. So that is real. But when we chatted, we've just chosen to not. We said from early on, even before COVID, when we first went down this, path and this journey, we said failure is not an option. We both left full-time corporate, cozy jobs to go pursue something that is really a labor of love, right? And so we knew going into it, failure is not an option. So when COVID hit, it was, what do we do? But we just already had that mindset of like, well, closing the doors is not an option. That just will never happen. It's not an option. So, I think we've just really had to, I think you touched on it, humble ourselves to know that at the end of the day, we don't know it all. We don't have all the answers, and we're never going to know it all or have all the answers. And so we've really been able to leverage local partnerships. I know you guys have been great over at Local First. We've collaborated with so many other local businesses, other studio owners. Being able to surround yourself with like-minded people who also know that, look, failure is not an option. We just have to come up with solutions that are going to work in this new world that we're living in, because it's not going anywhere. And we kind of knew that the day this hit, we had to prepare for the future as if this is isn't going anywhere. And that's what we did. You know, and then also just knowing there are resources out there like Local First. We're very fortunate enough to have a mentor in our specific boutique fitness industry that she's been the backbone of us navigating all of this. So just being able to leverage your resources and just knowing you don't know it all, and it's okay to not know it all, and surrounding yourself with people who are like-minded, but sometimes smarter than you, and that's okay.
I really like that. I feel like one of the number one things I do in some of our consultations with businesses who are seeking some sort of pivot, the word pivot, is connecting them with a mentor who's already been through that same scenario so that they can offer from a business owner's perspective how to get through it, which is definitely something that LFA can provide, some connections there for mentorship. So I feel like something interesting about everything you just said is it factors back into that first concept we were talking about, which is that community, because you listen to your customers and you adapt to what they want. You're not like out there trying to just come up with random ideas, but ideas that come from your customer base and from your community that you've built. And I know that that's that all of that, the no-whoa, the pushing forward, the listening to your community has resulted in some not normal things that you're doing now. I know you got yoga outside, you got yoga kind of in the studio, you got yoga online. You've had a lot of adaptability, and you're responding to everything with innovative ideas. So what are some of those innovative ideas that you've kind of pushed forward? I know a lot of them have connected to the presentation that just happened, so I'd love to dive into some of those.
Yeah, so first we started with online or virtual classes. Amber and I took about 72 hours to figure out how that was going to work and how it was going to look like, and then got it up and running. I think it's pretty much like over a weekend we got it going. And then from there, so for those that don't know, we're an aerial yoga studio. So we have aerial yoga rigs that we take to events. So during COVID, for people that wanted aerial classes, we rented out the rigs that we have just sitting in my storage. And we're still even renting those out for those that aren't comfortable coming into the studio and taking a class with us. In addition to that, we also started doing what we call in-studio on-demand classes. So somebody can book the studio, they come in, watch a pre-recorded class and take a class on their own. Nobody's there, it's just them by themselves. We live stream all of our classes. So if somebody isn't comfortable coming in, they can also attend the class from home. A lot of our students actually have their own hammocks now set up in their own homes since we've started this. In addition to the rigs that we rent out, we started offering a lot more private classes because people just weren't comfortable coming in and attending a large group. And then because of to reduce contact, we have to wash all of the hammocks after somebody uses it. So we started allowing people to bring their own hammock into the studio. And then that way it doesn't get touched by anybody else. It's their own. We can keep it at the studio for them and keep it in a nice little safe place so they don't have to worry about bringing it every time they come to class. I think I covered everything. Did I miss anything, Amber? Okay.
No, you got it all.
I know you're also constantly on the lookout for cross-promotional relationships with businesses to do like rooftop yoga. I know you're over in, oh my goodness, I always forget the name.
Churchill.
Churchill. It's
Churchill,
a president, or not a president. But yeah, so you're really trying to cross-promote there. I know that every business I've sent you to with a local product that's health-based, you've been open to doing consignment in the store. You guys are just really covering all the bases and really trying to push forward and really listening to your clients. And it's just, like I said, you were the first on LFA's mind to have a conversation on here. So with that, I think I'll open it up unless you have anything else you'd like to say, Amber or Randy. Stellar. So I'll open up to any questions from anybody who's still in. If you'd like to just unmute yourselves and ask the question, that's welcome. If you'd like to put it in chat, that's welcome as well. We also have a couple questions that have kind of come in too. So. Then, of course, if anyone from Thunderbird has any commentary too, that's more than welcome. I'd also like, so I'll tip it off with a question because I was actually interested. Why do you think Arizona has the lowest cancellation rate for gym memberships right now? Is it because we have access to an outdoor space, or?
I'm not 100% sure whenever I saw that statistic, but yeah, it definitely could be. I mean, when the closure started happening, the weather was still fairly good outside, so it wasn't too difficult for a lot of workouts to be conducted outside.
That makes sense. And then I had another question that I personally wrote down. Do you feel like a lack of interest in VR is due to the desire for social interaction specifically, or do you think that VR still might push through as a trend in the fitness industry? And if it does, how do small business owners deal with that kind of overhead?
Well, I actually personally don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. What I think the disconnect is, I don't think people just want to wear that big, bulky, apparatus on their head when they're working out. There are also things where I've seen like big chairs where it almost looks like you're flying, and they have little mechanisms that you can move your legs. You're still in this chair, suspended in air. You can move your legs, you can move your arms, but even then you still have that big bulky VR set on your head. And I think until they can make that smaller, and again, those latency issues with how a lot of that the live streaming things where the feedback comes in, and really being able, you're missing that trainer aspect of it, where somebody is watching exactly what you're doing and giving you feedback live. That is still going to be difficult until they really get this like a 5G or 6G network infrastructure of these fiber optics cables. I really think that's honestly the biggest part. Small business owners, I think if once they actually have that system put into place, I think they're actually just going to be something else. I think it's probably going to be holograms where you can look both ways and you can give that instant feedback. I actually don't think VR is going to take off. And if it does, it'll be once they finally get it down to, look at Google Glass, something like that. But you really just never know how these new technologies are going to be adopted. You can guess, but they're almost always wrong. So.
You get that from watching any sci-fi movie about the future. All right. Is there any other questions in the group? Perfect. Is there any other statements from anyone on the panel? Anybody want to share any more insights that we might have overlooked? Or all right. Well, with that, I just want to thank absolutely. Chris, did you have something else?
Well, I actually wanted to mention you kind of jogged my curiosity and just thought process. We were talking about the chefs. I actually didn't even think about that, how they were kind of hurting. And then I started to think about that recommendation about like Uber and Postmates. And I was thinking I put that because I just hadn't thought of a local delivery service when I was first writing that. But I mean, you could pair with a restaurant, and when they're doing deliveries, have them drop off your meal plans. If you've developed something like that, that would be another good option that you could talk about working with.
Yeah, so I've seen a couple restaurants who were doing a little bit of herding, and so they paired with what we call community supported agriculture, a CSA, which boxes up local produce from multiple local farms into one box, and then you can pick it up from various locations. And they partnered with a couple restaurants in town who also on consignment sold other goods like local bread, local eggs, and that kind of stuff. And then they get a little bit of it to the restaurant, and they get people coming in and they can sell them some of their food too. But then I've also seen CSAs pair with chefs so that the chefs can really have a conversation about what they're getting in their CSA share and how to cook it most effectively and that kind of stuff. So CSAs, if you have a space to just hold produce, they'll pick up from anywhere and pair with anyone. You can have nutritionists with it too. You can get a chef with it. Yeah, part of Local First is just trying to figure out what all those resources look like on a local scale. for that sourcing. So it shortens the supply chain, and it also keeps money in the local community more proficiently. But yeah, so thank you all for coming. We really appreciate it. Again, this is being recorded, so it's going to be utilized as a tool and shared with other individuals who might want it. I know some people expressed an interest in utilizing the PowerPoint. We'll get that to you to just check that out. Additionally, as Simon said, they have a report coming out too, and I've seen the rough draft and it looks great. Just one last thank you to Elevate, to Thunderbird School of Global Management. Thank you for all the participants who came in to check out the live stream, and everyone have a great day.
Thanks for having us, Jake. It was a great time.
Yeah,
Yeah, thank you.
Jake.
have a good one, guys. Bye.